And we're looking right in this one.
Yeah, I know, but we had to make a thumbnail picture. Sorry.
How's everybody doing?
I keep having to pick like random pictures, and they look like
random
like
pictures.
That.
Cheers, babe. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to a wonderful, beautiful, rainy, at least here in Arkansas, live at 5 on Wednesday. We're going to begin the discussion. It's going to be a pretty quick live. Probably be done. Probably one of our shortest live. We got a meeting here after this, but we're going to dive into a discussion about injury prevention, joint pain, probably some mobility stuff, etc., etc. So, do you want to kick it off? You got some knee pain?
I do have knee pain. I actually don't know what's wrong with my knee because no doctor will do anything about it but prescribe me pain pills. So, with joints, okay, so first of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about if you are a beginning lifter. So beginning lifters really want to push themselves. They want to really push the weights and things like that, which a lot of times your muscles can do, but you might find that your wrists are sore, your elbows are sore, your shoulders are sore, your knees, your okay. So the reason being is that as you start resistance training, as you challenge your body, challenge your muscles, you also have to strengthen up those joints and ligaments and all of those things as well as the muscle. So those things are going to also be sore as well as the muscles you're working. So keep that in mind. But I think going key here is don't go too heavy for your body. Don't just progressively get heavier, but don't try and go crazy with it. Another thing is going to be making sure that you're warming up properly, cooling down properly. You want to make sure that your joints and everything are really loosened up. And then there was one other thing that I want to make a big point on.
Stretching.
That's like the warming up and the cooling down. And then there was something else about joints, but my brain left me. So on to you.
All right, on to me. So when it comes to injury prevention, the best thing you can do is like really focus on mobility and everything prior to training. And there's a lot of misconceptions around that. So like a lot of people will do a static cold stretch. So say you're about to do squats, a lot of people do like static cold stretches. They'll sit there and like hold their toes or try and touch their toes and hold that. And honestly, that's not the best thing. Think of a rubber band. So your muscles are like a rubber band. If you stretch a rubber band and just hold that stretch, it's going to lose some of its elasticity, which is not a good thing. That's actually going to be making you more prone to injury. So I like to do forms of stretching in which basically I'm replicating the range of motion that I'm about to do in the exercise, but do so at a much lighter load. So before I do squats, rather than do like a static hold, toe touch stretch, I'm going to do some body weight squats, focus on doing some body weight lunges, trying to get the muscles activated, get the muscles stimulated, get the muscle fibers popping, but don't necessarily lose any elasticity. Also, when it comes to joints like your knees, your elbows, you don't really want to have like a bunch of load on that without kind of preparing that joint, first of all, and then having some way to keep that joint locked in. So like squats as an example. A lot of people give me hell for this because they think it's like overdoing it, but I've never had an injury and I go pretty heavy in squats and I do a lot of, squatting depth. So what I do is I warm up. I'll do like body weight squats, body weight lunges, maybe some leg extensions that are very lightweight just to get the muscles activated. And then I'll use knee wraps to keep the joint warm. You want to make sure your muscles and the surrounding, fluids and everything are very warm. And then I'll also wrap that knee with like a knee wrap. And basically what that is doing is applying pressure and tension and resistance there on that joint to keep it all locked in. You don't want to be loosey-goosey when it comes to, performing a heavy load, especially doing something like a compound movement like squats. So I kind of like use double protection, use the knee wraps and the knee sleeves. But like I said, I've never had an injury and I feel very stable when I'm doing squats. So I think it's worthwhile. Also, you can do things like I just purchased this little mobility spiky ball thing and this rumble roller. So this these both freaking hurt. Like
they hurt. They feel really good, but like hurt also.
Yeah, it's not like a back massage thing. You put this on and you're basically breaking up all that muscle fascia tissue, and that's going to help as well. Like you don't want, there's like a fine line you have to skate between being too loose and losing elasticity, but also being too tight that you could cause injury in that regard too. So having something like this where you just, either do as a warm up or cool down or both, or even in between sets. Like when I'm doing bicep curls, for instance, I'll often massage the bicep in between sets just to kind of get that blood, situated so that I'm not like just cramping up. I'm also flushing out the lactate better. And if you're keto adapted, we're going really deep on a rabbit hole here, but if you're keto adapted, you have more MCT transporters. That also acts to help clear lactate in your muscles. So you probably won't cramp up as much if your electrolytes are dialed in, if you're well keto adapted. I used to hit a wall when I would train prior to becoming keto adapted because I didn't have that efficiency in clearing lactate. So that's a bonus there. But doing something like this pre-training or post-training is a good way to prevent injury. Getting enough sleep and having enough calories are both good ways to prevent injury. And then having a structured deload week. So a deload week is basically like a strategic decrease in intensity or load from your normal training cycle. So for instance, you kind of want to be able to be intuitive with it, but you don't want to train so long that you don't have a structured deload. So a good rule of thumb is, depending on your training style, for me, I'll take a deload every 6 or 8 weeks. And I'll basically do the same movements, do the same exercises, but I'll drop the load on those lifts by quite a bit. I'm basically just focusing on getting blood flow and stimulation and not trying to load the central nervous system because it's important to have a break from that with a structured deload.
Mm-hmm. Also, I want to make sure that I mention that a lot of people get joint pain and pain in general because they don't do movements properly. There's a bunch of people out there who will try to teach you how to do movements and they're doing it incorrectly. And sometimes you're doing it incorrectly and you don't even know it. So don't be afraid to video yourself and make sure that you're doing the movement properly. It literally takes one time to screw yourself up. So make sure that you're doing movements properly and don't be afraid to ask someone for help or a local trainer or something like that.
All right, want to dive into some of these questions?
Yeah, we're going to run through these questions really quickly. Again, we kind of mentioned earlier that we have a meeting to get to right after this. So
Randall says, I have knee pain and I find that doing DDPY helps with it. I also found that going on a ruck helps with the pain the next day. What is DDPY? I feel like I've heard that before. What is DDPY, Randall? I'm curious.
Robert and Crystal, what are your thoughts on Kratom tea and have you ever tried it? We've tried Kratom. We have not had the tea. And I had my dad using that while he was here for some of his pain and things like that. I haven't really seen a whole lot of difference myself. I also don't have pain, but I do feel like it's a natural way of being able to help yourself. However, after doing a little bit of research, I would like to forewarn people that in high doses, it can be overly used and it can be too much of a stimulant. So if you're keeping it to a minimum, probably 1 tea a day or, something like that, making sure that you're not taking crazy amounts, then you should be golden.
AC says, Robert Crystal, how do you measure meat, cooked or raw? I find it so difficult to measure it raw. Any tips? So we always measure it raw. The main thing is to measure it consistently the same way each time.
I know, yeah, a lot of people who are cooking for the family or cooking for a spouse or something like that, they will always measure it cooked because they make a whole bunch of it and then their family takes some and then they weigh it while they're making their own dish. So just stay consistent with it. But if you have the option to meal prep or make it the way that you want it, then we prefer to do it raw, but make sure that you don't drain out any of that fat and stuff. Make sure that you're also eating that.
Yeah, you don't want to lose that. Michael says, use a sugar-free pre-workout. It gives me a sensation for sure, but I don't personally see a difference in my performance. Seems a universal, just not seeing a difference in numbers. So yeah, pre-workout is interesting. I don't feel like I can lift heavier weights with pre-workout. It's almost kind of like the preparatory, getting yourself in the mind game. If you're training, when I used to work out outside of the compound, before we had the compound, I would make a pre-workout. I would put on a certain music. I would you dress a certain way, and it was all like preparation for going to the dungeon, going to the gym, and going to war, basically. And I feel like a lot of people use a pre-workout in a similar manner. Like they don't necessarily need it, but it's like part of their prep work that like gets them in the zone to lift.
Yeah, it's kind of like giving someone decaf coffee in the morning when they're used to caffeinated and you don't tell them. They probably won't tell the difference. But it's like the habit of doing that and having that. Check out Movement IQ on Instagram for great mobility content. Knees are fine for squats, but hurt on stairs, says Dylan Shamlin.
Dylan Shamlin, why are your knees hurting, bro?
Yeah, he mentioned earlier in the comments that his knees were also hurting. You should message me because mine hurt in certain spots, and I've been like trying to figure it out. But yeah, you should text me and let me know, because there is a difference in where your pain hurts for squats versus stairs. Like mine is fine on stairs, but I can't do squats. So I've looked at several different things, so I might be able to actually help you figure it out. And I've also been doing movements that really helps me.
By the way, Dylan, we've been jamming out to your new rap song.
Yeah, I watched the music video and it looks awesome.
We've been rocking. How much stretching do you do post-workout? Honestly, I don't do a whole lot of stretching post-workouts. What I do like to do is go for a short run of like a mile and a half at some point post-training, and I feel like that helps loosen me up really good. That's not what everybody's going to want to do, obviously, but doing something like that works really well. I don't normally feel super tight post-training, but like if you feel super tight, you're probably going to want to spend more time stretching.
Yeah, for me, I have been trying to practice stretching after a workout, but I'm trying to make it more of a habit to relax my body between my exercise and moving forward with the rest of my day and allowing my body to feel comfortable and relaxed again. But I find that the stretching does help me in my next day's workout. So even though your body's warmed up, it's not a bad thing to work on that flexibility, stretching, and just like lubricating your body all over.
Do you have any recommendations for people with arthritis? You have any recommendations for people with arthritis? Is it like in your hands?
That is a really hard
knees?
one. And because there's different kinds of arthritis as well. I'd be happy to do some more research on that. I have had some like clients and things with arthritis, and they kind of just work with it. I don't have a lot of, that sounds really bad, but I don't really have a lot of, I'm not educated enough about it to say anything, so I don't want to say the wrong thing.
It says it's a form of yoga that was designed by former world champion Diamond Dallas Page. I've actually heard of this on a Joe Rogan podcast, not to mention it. It's a mix of yoga, rehabilitation exercises, old school calisthenics, and dynamic. So I don't know why our live video keeps, our connection's just really bad. So I've noticed that a lot of people with tennis elbow, if they use, it's weird. Like I'll have tennis elbow. I haven't had it in forever, but I had tennis elbow really bad. So then I started using wrist straps, not wrist wraps, but wrist straps. So I would use that to kind of take some of the tension off of my grip strength when I was gripping the bar. And then that pretty much cured the tennis elbow. Like it really hurt when I was doing standing overhead extensions for tricep and skull crushers. But those wrist straps pretty much eliminated that. And then after enough time, I was able to build up the strength in that forearm and have the tennis elbow anymore. So I would try and look into doing something like that if you're not currently.
Someone said that looks like this is where winners hang out.
Heck yeah.
That's funny.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to try and, do you have a couple, another question or so? But we're going to get going.
Time and attention with lower weights or blood flow restriction bands for arthritis. Yeah, time and attention and BFR bands. So blood flow restriction is really great because you're able to stimulate the muscle with a much lighter load. So you could basically use a BFR strap. Those are the ones that like they don't cut off your circulation, but they restrict your circulation. Blood flow restriction.
That was, sorry, I have to say that was a really great recommendation. That did not immediately come to my mind, but that is 100% the way to go.
Yeah, that's a really good technique to use for sure. Just to make
sure
you
for mentioning that.
Yeah, just make sure you're not cutting off your circulation. All right, y'all. So we got to run to a meeting. We appreciate y'all's time. Sorry for the super short live, but we'll be back.
I likely will not be here next week. But I love you guys, and I don't know. Are you gonna be on here next week?
No, we'll play it by ear.
We'll play it by ear, and we love you guys. We'll think of a topic ourselves or a one that's very common. So,
Awesome.
toodaloo.
Take care for now.